Yeah, I know Packers fans were hopeful that we'd be talking about the matchups between the Packers defense and that Patriots offense. And we discussed about the disappointment there, losing in the NFC Championship game. But let's face it, Tim. Back in November, when the team is 4-6, nobody is talking about one win away from the Super Bowl. So I know it's still just a few days, but as you kind of step back a little bit, what can you say about the incredible run that the Packers went on just to get to this game?
Michael, I think you're exactly right, and that's why I allude to the body of work here for this team. It was, I don't want to say stumbling around, but not playing very impressive football earlier in the season, certainly in the early middle part of the season, and then just got it going and really, really impressed a lot of people. Had some incredibly memorable plays, certainly in the playoffs, even to get to the playoffs. Some of the singular plays will stand out from this season on both sides of the ball. They had things working all the way around. Even special teams throw that in with Mason Crosby and his kicks at Dallas. So there's no question there were a lot of positives and quite a ride. Let's face it, pro football is still an entertainment business, and the weather starts to get cold in the upper Midwest, and people dedicate 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon or a late afternoon or evening to watch the Green Bay Packers in Wisconsin. And the Packers gave them a heck of a ride. From November right into the middle of January, it was really incredible, particularly, as you said, from where they started there at the early part of November. So this is a season that will certainly be remembered. You come up short of the Super Bowl, though, and it's easy to say Aaron Rodgers here has been in the playoffs all these years since going to the Super Bowl, hasn't been back. Mike McCarthy's been in all these years. But very few people have had that. Very few teams, organizations have had that kind of consistency. So the Packers were consistent. They got back again. Plus, they had some real high notes in the process.
Tim, you covered this team all season. What was your favorite moment?
I guess I would have to say the pass to Jared Cook in Dallas, just because it was so inconceivable that they could even make that happen, Alexa. And think of what that tops. You know, on our programming here in Milwaukee, we had a little fan vote for play of the year. Well, my goodness, the candidates we had for that, you had the Hail Mary, you had the Crosby kicks, you had all kinds of things over the course of the season, even in the last few weeks, if you just look at that. But I would say the Aaron Rodgers rolling left, throwing on the run to Jared Cook, who drags his toes. So many things, if they were just a little bit different, wouldn't have allowed that play to be successful. And all those things did come together on it. So that would be my favorite play of 2016/17.
Yeah, unfortunately, they'll just be highlights on their Wikipedia page instead of being able to lead them to the Super Bowl. But I want to ask you about their record in NFC Championships games. They're 1-3 under Mike McCarthy. Who does that say more about? The coach, the organization, the players there, Aaron Rodgers? Who's defined by that?
You know, that's a tough one to say. 2007 was still Brett Favre playing at that time. They were at home. It was a cold day against Tom Coughlin. Remember how red his face was? And the Giants, Packers, you know, they probably should have won that game. And Brett Favre threw an interception, his final pass as a Green Bay Packer. Green Bay didn't really play particularly well in that game. The next time they made the NFC Championship game, they were at Chicago, so again on the road. And miracle of miracles here, the one thing that happened for the Packers in that game was the defense stood up. The offense didn't play very well, but the defense carried them into Super Bowl 45. And then they've had the two since then at Seattle and at Atlanta. So that's 3 straight on the road. Aaron Rodgers was talking about how you need to get these games at home. The fan support makes a difference. Not having to travel makes a difference. So I do think that's part of it in terms of who this sits on. It's coming very close. It's not fluky in terms of the teams they lost to, though. The Seahawks obviously were very good. Packers had that game in hand and should have won it in 2014. But the Seahawks were certainly very good. I think the Falcons are very good this time around. The Giants went on to win the Super Bowl in 2007. And in 2010, the Packers went on to win the Super Bowl themselves. So I think it's a matter of getting close. You'd love to see, if you're a Packer fan, them get over the hump. But I can't really find a lot of fault with the Packers in those particular games because there were so many different things that went wrong in the specific games, particularly that Seattle game. If you go back to that 2014, it's almost like how could they give the game away? It's hard to point at any one person. It was more of a harmonic convergence, if you will.